Hello and welcome to the True Faith Transfer Show with me, Adam. Newcastle United have done the unthinkable. They have smashed their previous transfer record and brought in Brazilian striker Joelinton from Hoffenheim. This is a story that had been bubbling under the surface for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. Since the rumblings of Steve Bruce arriving, the story returned. And there was lots of rumours saying that it was going to be announced pretty shortly after his arrival. That has happened. It's a signing that, listen, we've had a couple of caveats before I start. This summer has been pretty dismal. Breaking the transfer record like this doesn't absolve Mike Ashley of anything else that he's done, any other reckless decisions. This is just default. This is just what normal clubs do, okay? You know, West Ham have just signed Sebastian Haller for 45 million. You know, this is just regular. This is how much a sort of a Premier League striker is gonna cost you. So we've reinvested, you know, more than the Jose Perez money now. It's going to be an instalment. But yeah, I think after such a summer, I can understand people are looking at Joelinton and thinking like they're just looking at plain stats and just thinking he's going to be shite. He's not good enough. What we have to remember with Joelinton is that he is still very young. He's 22, and he's only really had one breakout season in the Bundesliga, where he made a fair impact. So I'm gonna talk you through, you know, his style of play, what I think he'll bring to the side, and if I think he's going to succeed in the Premier League. But I think it's important to not get carried away with just beating the club with a stick every opportunity we get it. You know, we've signed players before that people were unsure about. I was really unsure about Demba Ba, for example. Free transfer, how underwhelming. But then what a player he turned out to be. This kid is still young, and this is a big move for him. And from what I've seen, and I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and pretend that I watched Bundesliga every single weekend of last season, and that I've watched every single minute of every single Hoffenheim game in the past, season. That's not the case. But I've done a bit of research, and I'm going to give you my opinion where I think he's going to fit in and what his style of play is going to be like. So, for a start, he's about 6'1". He's really tall. Not as tall as me, though. Obviously, I'm 6'5". He's nearly there. He's nearly in my realm there. He's a player who is he's an out-and-out target man. But what I've noticed about him is that he has very good defensive qualities, Joelinton. So he will muck in, and he likes to tackle to the point. He likes to tackle so much that he was averaging last season 1.3 tackles per game. If we want to compare that to Newcastle team of last season, he's actually managing more tackles per game than Jamal Lascelles did last season. So just as a comparison, he manages more tackles per game than Jamal Lascelles. Just as an interesting little, fact there. So, in terms of what he's done goal-wise, he's a striker. We're bringing him in the hope that he's going to be scoring goals. So he made 25 appearances, 25 starts, 3 off the bench, 7 goals and 5 assists last season in the Bundesliga. He got a hat trick. He got 3 goals in the Pokal as well, the German Cup. So 30 appearances in total, 10 goals, 5 assists. That's a pretty good return for somebody who's just had his breakout season in the Bundesliga in one of the top 5 leagues. He's averaging a goal contribution every other game. Now, if he was to manage that in the Premier League, that would be outstanding. That would be unbelievable. I'm not expecting him to make quite an impact this season, simply because, obviously I'd love to, but what we have to remember is he's coming from a different league, he's coming to a different country, and like I say, we have to emphasise that he's still only 22 years old. By the first week of the season, he'll be 23-year-old, granted, but we have to be patient. We were patient with Rondon, you know, at the start of the season when he was just starting to get into the side and just starting to get up to speed with the tactics. And even though Rondon had played in the Premier League countless times, it was once he got going, we started to see the value of him. We started to see what he brought to the team. We started to see how much he was a spearhead. And Joelinton is played mainly as a central striker, obviously, but he does like to find the channels. He has been played on the right wing as well. So he's actually played 3 games on the right wing for Hoffenheim last season, and he scored 1 and 2 assists in 3 games. So he can be effective. He can be effective at cutting inside and bothering the left back as well as the centre back. So what, in terms of his physicality, this is one of his other big strengths. His actual physical strength. He's kind of like, physicality-wise, he sort of reminds me of a John Carew, if you can remember that far back. Is that showing my age? Probably. Norwegian striker, played for Valencia, but he was kind of... But I think he's a lot more mobile than a John Carew. He does have a bit of pace once he gets going. So the fact that he's mobile, the fact that he tackles. The irony of all this is, it sounds like he would have been absolutely ideal in a Rafa Benitez setup. You know, defending from the front, tackling, harassing, charging down defenders. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what formation Steve Bruce is even going to play. Is Joelinton going to be the spearhead with sort of Almiron, another forward behind him? Is he going to play 2 up top, Steve Bruce? We don't know yet. It's far too early to say, but it's fair to say that Joelinton is going to be an important part of any attack and at a focal point. And I think the important thing here, in terms of his transition into the Premier League, is that he has the physicality to cut it in the Premier League. You know, I've seen, like, we've all done a bit of YouTube scouting, but you see how, you know, players can bounce off him, how he holds the ball up really well. Now, Rondon was really good at holding the ball up. He was exceptional at it. And Joelinton has those qualities as well. The other thing that I've noticed about Joelinton is that he does like to find a pass. Obviously, you get some strikers who, often quite rightly, just want to have a shot at goal, just want to just crack one off a goal. But with Joelinton, he does like to feed in other players as well. So you can imagine someone like Almiron working quite well off him. You know, if we are going to play the 3 up front like we did last season, and you've got like 2 mobile forwards operating behind Joelinton, that could work quite well, you know, with him flicking the ball on and feeding players through with his feet, because he is good technically. Or if it's kind of like a 2 up front situation, you sort of like, it's the big man, little man sort of situation potentially. But I think hopefully we'll like to see sort of Almiron getting in the box more this season, and I'm hoping with someone like Joelinton who does like to look for a pass as well, that we're going to see that. So he's really, really good at dribbling as well. So you look at how Mo Diarmi would use his strength, use his physicality to carry the ball from the centre of the park forward, and people would be bumping into him, and people would just be bouncing off him, and so it's kind of that kind of dribble rather than an Almiron dribble, which is obviously like a pacey dribble at high speed. I think Joelinton is more it's more kind of considered, but it's he just defends the ball really well, like a Dembele from when he was at Spurs. The way he used to shield the ball and carry it, he wasn't blessed with loads of pace, but his strength and physicality ensured that he didn't lose the ball either. And that's kind of the bracket I see Joelinton falling into in terms of those dribbles. So we have someone who has played as an attacking midfielder centre as well. He's played 3 times there last season and got a goal. So I think he's good at those key passes. He's good at dribbling, holding up the ball, and those tackles as well will add to the overall defensive contribution for the whole team. So I think he'll really get Geordies on board because his work ethic. He works hard, and he's quite aggressive in his tackling as well. So that's, he's not shy of a yellow card, for example. He picked up 5 last season, which isn't terrible, but I think it's a byproduct of his style of play that he likes to muck in, and I think that's why the Newcastle fans are going to like him, because he evidently works hard, and we see that, and he tackles for the team, and he's not lazy. He's basically the anti-Mitrovic. In terms of target men, he's an anti-Mitrovic. So a lot of people are pointing to the fact that Rafa didn't want Joelinton to go through, and that's good enough for them. That's actually not strictly true. That's not what Rafa Benitez said. George Colkin made it clear that when Rafa Benitez was offered him, sort of last season, maybe in view for this season, he was told how much he was going to cost, and Rafa Benitez, given what had happened before in the context of Rafa Benitez's time at Newcastle, where transfer money was scarce, was wondering why we were spending so much on just one player. Which is a fair comment, because Rafa Benitez has very, very, very meticulous targets in mind and how he would spend the money if he was ever allowed to do so. He wasn't, and he's gone. So let's not dwell on that, but let's not pretend that Rafa Benitez didn't want him. That's not what he said. He said he didn't dismiss the idea of getting him. He just thought that the price was too much. There's no doubt that Rafa Benitez would have wanted him as part of his squad instead of a Hossley, for example, because I think he's going to have a big impact. Maybe not straight away, but I think he's going to have a big impact. He's going to be difficult to defend against. He's going to be a nuisance for defences. They can't just have an easy ride with him, because he's energetic, because he's hugely strong. He's going to be able to battle against some of the best centre-backs in the Premier League, eventually. But it will take time, and it will be a transition period. But hopefully you can hit the ground running. So it's very, very easy to just categorise this under the heading of it's been a shit summer for Newcastle. He's going to be shit as well. We've overpaid from all this kind of stuff. Kind of forget the transfer fee, because transfer fees are not something that Newcastle United do well, or we have much context and understanding, because we don't do it. We don't spend enough. Like, this should just be another squad player, except it's absolutely smashed our transfer record. So we are simply paying the market price in an inflated market, granted, but this is the price for someone who could have loads of potential. And we're taking a little bit of a risk that he's had only one season in the top flight of the Bundesliga. But if he'd had another season where he'd got even more and League and Cup included 10 and 5, if he got even more than that, then we wouldn't be able to attract him the season after. We'd have to be paying 60 million for him instead. So you've got to kind of take that risk. So I think this is a good move by the club. Probably the only good move so far in this summer transfer window. But we've had nout to be excited about. So I'm going to get really, really excited about this. I think he's going to be class, and I think He's going to prove a lot of people wrong, and we're going to have to back him and support him. But I'm really excited to seeing him play, see him spearhead an attack, whichever formation we might be playing in. But one thing's for sure, he can handle himself, and that's critical, I think, in the Premier League. That's something that Dwight Gale doesn't give us. It's something a Muto doesn't give us. He can handle himself against very, very physical centre-backs in the Premier League, and I think that's key. So that's where I see him fitting in. Let's hope he can develop under Steve Bruce. But please allow yourself to get excited about something. We can't just we can't just beat the club every single time. And I'm not excusing anything that's gone before. I'm still really annoyed about this summer. It's been appalling. It's been really, really appalling. But let's still get excited about the things that we should be getting excited about, and not just get clouded in misery all the time and think everything's shit. It's not. It's not Joelinton's fault that, you know, he's cost what he's cost. It's not Joelinton's fault that Mike Ashley is the way he is. It's not Joelinton's fault that we have Steve Bruce as a manager. So let's back Joelinton. I think he's going to be class. Thank you very much for watching this video. We have loads more transfer shows for True Faith. As and when transfers drop in, there'll be loads more of these. So please subscribe to the True Faith YouTube channel, and I'll hopefully see you again really soon when we're going to be signing even more players. I'll believe it when I say it. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.